Drum Major Julie Tremper. Is your band ready? Chatfield High School, you may begin your show for competition. Ladies and gentlemen, the Chatfield High School Marching Band. The Chatfield Band is under the direction of Mr. Doug Dalton, Assistant Director Mr. Steve Martin, Percussion and Assistant Director Mr. Paul Traggett, Guard Instructor Ms. Stacy Kay, Direction on the field by Drum Major Julie Tremper. The Chatfield Band this year participated in the Jeffco Marching Festival and the Pomona Marching Festival, CBA Regionals, and CBA State Competitions. They're coming off their best year ever last year, finishing in the top 10 in the Pomona Regional and State Festivals. The Chatfield Band and staff would like to thank all the parents, staff, and administrators for their support. Ladies and gentlemen, let's have another big round of applause for the Chatfield High School Marching Band. Drum Majors Jennifer Morandi and Joe Pitleski. Is your band ready? Smoky Hill High School, you may begin your show for competition. Ladies and gentlemen, the Smoky Hill High School Hill Regiment. The Hill Regiment is under the direction of Mr. Larry West and Mr. Joe Bryce. Percussion instructors are Randy Dobbs and Steve Vaughn. Additional instruction by Beth Parks and Tracy Radill. Direction on the field by drum majors Jennifer Morandi and Joe Pitleski. The color guard captains are Shelley Wilson, Sarah Kepkel, and Laura Nishi. This evening you heard the band perform Jungle Book main theme and I'll Never See Him Again. The Smoky Hill High School bands have a long history of superior and award-winning performances in concert, marching, and jazz. They've performed with distinction throughout the United States, Canada, Mexico, and the Bahamas. The Hill Regiment has been in Colorado State marching finals every year but one since 1988, placing fourth last year. They would like to thank their booster organization, known as the Regiment Reserve, for its fantastic support. Ladies and gentlemen, let's have another big round of applause for the Smoky Hill High School Hill Regiment. Drum Major Sharon Lasky. Is your band ready? Green Mountain High School, you may begin your show for competition. Ladies and gentlemen, the Green Mountain High School Marching Band. The Green Mountain Band is under the direction of Mr. Dennis Sullivan. Direction on the field by drum major Sharon Lasky. The color guard captains are Nicole Carney and Tiffany Root. This evening you heard the band perform music from the film A Nightmare Before Christmas. The Marching Band Drill Show was written by Robbie Billings, music arrangements by Nick Barata, percussion book by Kerry Odell and Brian Slagley. Color guard instructors are Brenda Adams, Robbie Billings, and Roger St. Vincent. Percussion instructors are Kerry Odell and Mark Adams, Sherry Marler and Eric Jansen. Additional staff includes Brian Slagley, Jeff Martin, and Mike Hoag. The Green Mountain Marching Band has many distinguished awards. They've been in CBA finals for the past 9 years. Last year in the Tournament of Bands in Las Cruces, New Mexico, they won first place in their class, came in second overall, and the color guard won first place. Ladies and gentlemen, let's have another big round of applause for the Green Mountain High School Marching Band. Drum majors Stephen Bontrager and Aaron Griffin. Is your band ready? Bear Creek High School, you may begin your show for competition. Ladies and gentlemen, the Bear Creek High School Marching Band. The Bear Creek Band is under the direction of Mr. Daryl Bostwick. Percussion instructor is Mike Nevin. Guard instructor is Lori Zarlengo. Visual instruction by Jim Zarlengo. Direction on the field by drum majors Stefan Bontrager and Aaron Griffin. This evening, you heard the Bear Creek Band perform Haven Dance by David Holsinger, On a Hymn Song of Philip Bliss by David Holsinger, and Morning Alleluias by Ron Nelson. The Bear Creek High School Marching Band has been a finalist at the Pomona Festival the last 2 years. At CSU Field Competition in 1994, placed first, and placed second at the 1995 CSU Band Day. Ladies and gentlemen, let's have another big round of applause for the Bear Creek High School Marching Band. Drum majors Michael Baucom and Deborah Downing. Is your band ready? Gateway High School, you may begin your show for competition. Ladies and gentlemen, the Gateway High School Marching Band. The Gateway Band is under the direction of Mr. Jack Yonts. Percussion instructor is Mike Nevin. Marching instructor Don Fairchild. Guard instruction by Christina Love. Direction on the field by drum majors Michael Baucom and Deborah Downing. The color guard captains are Sabera Wells and Cheryl Brown. This evening you heard the band perform music from The Ascension by Robert W. Smith. The Gateway Marching Band has twice performed in the Fiesta Bowl Parade, and last year performed in the nationally televised Hollywood Christmas Parade. The marching band has won numerous parades the past 4 years, including first place finishes at the State Fair Parade in Pueblo, Littleton Western Welcome Week Parade, and the Inglewood Holiday Parade. Ladies and gentlemen, let's have another big round of applause for the Gateway High School Marching Band. Drum majors Sarah Vose and Josh Burke. Is your band ready? North Glen High School, you may begin your show for competition. Ladies and gentlemen, the North Glen High School Marching Band. The North Glen Band is under the direction of Mr. Michael J. White. John Crouch, visual design. John Zlob, color guard. Dave Marvin, percussion. Kathy Berglund, percussion. Mike Doe, percussion. Dean Sahir, percussion. Molly Mayville, color guard. Direction on the field by drum majors Sarah Vose and Josh Burke. The color guard captains are Aaron Fitch and Janelle Lovato. The drum captain is Matt Jubenville. The North Glen Band has a strong history of success over the years, including 4 state marching championship titles in the last 5 years. In addition to placing second in Class 5A in 1994 CBA State Marching Championships, the band was the Pomona Marching Festival Sweepstakes champion, the Denver Metro Regional champion. The percussion section has also been state champion in Class 5A the past 9 years. Ladies and gentlemen, let's have another big round of applause for the North Glen High School Marching Band. Drum majors Molly Nielsen and Megan Netwall. Is your band ready? Ponderosa High School, you may begin your show for competition. Ladies and gentlemen, the Ponderosa High School Mustangs Marching Band. The Ponderosa Band is under the direction of Mr. Jim Miller and Mr. Dan Berard. Direction on the field by drum majors Molly Nielsen and Megan Netwall. The color guard captain is Mandy Masterson. Drumline captain is Mark Suhonen. The Ponderosa Band has been 5A state marching champion 6 times. Last spring, the band took first place at the prestigious Festival of States competition in St. Petersburg, Florida, besting marching bands from all over the country. The percussion section won the award for Best Percussion as well. The Ponderosa Band is supported on the field by a highly motivated and effective band booster organization. These parents provide countless hours of time and energy to help the band in many different ways. Without them, the band would not be able to achieve the high level of success and achievement these people make possible. Ladies and gentlemen, let's have another big round of applause for the Ponderosa High School Mustangs Marching Band. Drum majors Justin Gines, Shonda McGuire, and Jessica Haycock. Is your band ready? Pomona High School, you may begin your show for competition. Ladies and gentlemen, the Pomona High School Marching Band. The Pomona Band is under the direction of Mr. W.L. Whaley, Assistant Director Mr. Scott Bett, Percussion Instructors James Steinke and Ray Uleberry, Music Instruction by Ed Rausch, Mike Bussey, and Adrian Lando, Visual Instruction by John Michaels, Color Guard Instruction Jim Wood, Scott Kasek, and Jenny Hansen. Direction on the field by Drum Majors Justin Gines, Shonda McGuire, and Jessica Haycock. Pomona is the defending CBA State Class 5A champion. The band finished 5th in Class 2A at the 1994 Bands of America Grand National Championships and is the only band from Colorado to receive a superior rating at this prestigious event. The 190-member Pomona Marching Band will be traveling to Pasadena, California to represent Colorado in the 1996 Tournament of Roses Parade. Ladies and gentlemen, let's have another big round of applause for the Pomona High School Marching Band. Press box, go ahead.
Bearcats, you may now take the field for exhibition. Ladies and gentlemen, the Scottsbluff Marching Bearcats.
Drum majors, front and center. Ladies and gentlemen, this year we'll again be presenting an award called the People's Choice Award. This award will go to the band judged best by a select celebrity panel as described in today's program. I hope you bought a program. Guest judges volunteering to serve on today's panel are Bo and Lynn Cottrell of the Make-A-Wish Foundation of Colorado, and from KWGN Channel 2, Ms. Anna Osborne. Helping me present today's awards. Ladies and gentlemen, let's have a round of applause for Ms. Anna Osborne.
Thanks so much. So glad to be here with you tonight. And I'd just like to hear it once more for all of these talented young people out on the fields. Congratulations to each and every one of them.
Before presenting this evening's awards, I would like to recognize two awards given earlier today based on preliminary competition. The most improved band in Class 4A, we'd like to congratulate Alameda High School. And most improved band in Class 5A, we'd like to congratulate Arapahoe High School. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time we will present caption awards and announce placements in both 4A and 5A competition. I know you love suspense. The Drum Major Awards are sponsored by the Rocky Mountain Drum Major and Flag Camp. The award for Best Drum Major in Class 5A goes to Justin Gines, Shonda McGuire, and Jessica Haycock, Pomona High School. This evening's Percussion Awards are sponsored by the Rocky Mountain Percussion Association. The award for Best Percussion in Class 5A goes to Pomona High School. The Color Guard Awards are sponsored by the Continental Divide Color Guard Circuit. The award for Best Color Guard in Class 5A goes to North Glen High School. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll now be presenting the People's Choice Award. As mentioned earlier, this award will go to the bands judged best by a select celebrity panel. The award is sponsored by John Ickabone of Celestial Travel. Presenting the awards is 1994 CBA Hall of Fame recipient, Mr. John Ickabone. In Class 5A, goes to North Glen High School. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now announce placements in Class 5A. In 8th place, with a score of 74.2 and 0 penalty points, Smoky Hill High School.
Smoky Hill High School is proud of its well-rounded instrumental music program with its award-winning concert bands, jazz band, symphony orchestra, and marching band. The students would like to thank the booster organization known as the Regiment Reserve for their fantastic support. Congratulations tonight to Smoky Hill High School.
In 7th place, with a score of 74.35 and 0 penalty points, Chatfield High School.
A very exciting night tonight for Chatfield High School. This is the first time the Chatfield Band has made the finals. The students would like to thank the juniors and seniors for hanging in there and believing it could happen. For over half of the band, this is their first year for marching, and they all want to thank the juniors and seniors for bringing them through. Congratulations to Chatfield High School.
In 6th place, with a score of 77.30 and 0 penalty points, Green Mountain High School.
Green Mountain High School has won several championships at the Colorado Bandmasters State Marching Festival. They'll be attending the Zia Music Festival in New Mexico, and we'd like to wish them the very best of luck there. And congratulations tonight to Green Mountain High School.
In 5th place, with a score of 78.05 and 0 penalty points, Bear Creek High School.
The Bear Creek Band program consists of 2 concert bands, a jazz band, marching band, percussion ensemble, a winter guard, and numerous small ensembles. The percussion ensemble was a world finalist at the National Percussion Championships in Dayton, Ohio last year. The marching band was also the sweepstakes winner at the All-American Musical Festival in Orlando, Florida in 1994. Congratulations to Bear Creek High School.
In 4th place, with a score of 81.20 and 0 penalty points, Gateway High School.
Gateway High School is in Aurora, Colorado. They sport a balanced band program involving students in one of 3 concert bands, jazz band, percussion ensemble, and marching band. They've also worked very hard this year, and we'd like to give them our congratulations. All the best to Gateway High School.
At this time, We'd like to announce the remaining caption awards based on this evening's finals competition. The award for High Visual in Class 5A goes to Pomona High School. The award for High Music in Class 5A goes to Pomona High School. The award for High General Effect in Class 5A goes to Pomona High School. And now to continue with the placement awards. Whew, what a night. In third place, with a score of 88.40 and 0 penalty points, North Glen High School.
North Glen will be representing Colorado at the Grand Nationals to be held in Indianapolis in November. They have won many Colorado Bandmasters Association state marching championships, and our congratulations to them tonight. Congratulations, North Glen High School.
In second place, with a score of 89.00 and 0 penalty points, Ponderosa High School.
In April of this year, the Ponderosa Band traveled to sunny Florida for more than a week to take part in the Festival of States contest. This contest has a rich history of championship performances, and the Ponderosa Band was awarded first place, sharing the honor with legendary national championships bands over a 50-year tradition. Congratulations to Ponderosa High School.
And in first place, and Colorado's champion 5A band, with a score of 93.15 and 0 penalty points, Pomona High School.
Is one of only 7 bands to represent Colorado in the 105-year history of the Tournament of Roses Parade. They'll be marching in Pasadena on New Year's Day 1996, and we hope you'll all tune in to national television to watch them. You can also see their stunning performance again at the Denver Bronco game on November 19th.
Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the 1995 Colorado Bandmasters 4A, 5A. Thank you, Anna.
Thank you. Glad to be here, and congratulations again.
Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Colorado Bandmasters Association and Flesher Hinton Music, my name's Gary Seidel. Thank you all for coming. Drive home safely. Good night.